Happening, everybody? The Job Guys back with you one more time. Nitro Nick is here. Sloke is here. SummerSlam is almost here. It's that time of year one more time this year in Cleveland. And as we always do, leading up to the big shows, WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, SummerSlam,
Summerfest,
we take a look back at maybe a great SummerSlam, maybe some kind of countdown. And that's what we're doing this year. We are counting down the 5 best and the 5 worst main events in SummerSlam history. Now, main event is last match. So none of this double main event stuff, anything like that. The last match on the show. And Nick has put together his top 5 and worst 5 list. And so we're going to let Nick pretty much take control of this thing. And then I'll add a 2 cents here and there.
Yeah, lowest rated show we have.
Everybody's already gone. But yeah, Nick's going to take control here, and then I'll add a 2 cents here or there. But you know, this stuff is so subjective, Nick. Like some people are work rate guys, some people are storyline guys, character guys. Everybody's got a different idea of what makes something great.
Yeah.
So you came up with a formula, though,
because
to decide what we're going to do here. Tell everybody about the formula. You got a bunch of different categories and you added them all together and spit out a number.
I tried to even it out because if you look at certain guys, and if you even just take, I'm not going to, a Meltzer or something, certain wrestlers, there's no way in hell they could get a 5 out of this guy because he doesn't like that style of wrestler.
Hulk Hogan.
Okay, right. And again, Hulk Hogan's matches might not be Daniel Bryan's matches or Okada's matches, but there's different factors to me. And this is not only the best, the biggest. So what I did is I can't take my bias out. I mean, that's going to show a little bit, but I made a 5 categories, and they're all out of a scale of 10. The first category being, how big are the participants, right? What are we looking at here? How big are they in the industry? And also, how big are they even versus themselves? Like Hulk Hogan 1988 versus Hulk Hogan 2000, maybe 5 or 6, whenever he fought Shawn Michaels. That, not saying he wasn't big then, but he was super big in 88, right?
Star power.
Yeah, the star power of the contestants would be my first one. The second one, how big's wrestling, Ryan? Do people even watch? I mean, you know, me and you say this stuff all the time, that there's guys putting on 5-star matches in halls and gymnasiums all over the country, but 20 people saw it, right? And, you know, and no one cared. There's no story. There's
602,000, I think, would be the.
Yeah. You know, and so how big is wrestling during that era? Is it 1996 or is it 1999? Because there's a major difference in the WWE between those two few years. Slot 3. How good's the story of the feud? To me, you cannot have a 5-star match without the great story. People talk Savage Steamboat, Ryan. Savage Steamboat had a great feud, too. Savage tried to kill this guy with the timekeeper belt, almost ended his career.
Crushed larynx.
Right.
The man could not speak.
Only to team up at Survivor Series. But, you know, it's, you know, the story, you know, it's got to be there. Number 4 for the work raters. Taking into consideration the match.
Yeah.
How well is it done? But I'm also taking in consideration in the work rate, the era and the wrestler. I cannot expect Bill Goldberg to do what Bret Hart does. And I'm sorry I used the two of those in the same sentence. Hopefully Bret did not watch it. But
he's a fan.
Yeah, huge fan. Yes, you guys go back. You guys go way back. Really?
Yeah.
No. But yeah, no. So the work rate, Ryan. And last but not least, the finish, man. Does it work for me, brother? You know, there's a couple matches out here, and they're, to steal one from Sheamus, bangers. But then you got guys cashing in, and you're like, oh, did that just ruin the whole night?
A lot of
You
money
know,
in the bank cash-ins there a little bit at
a
SummerSlam.
lot of them,
Yep.
Ryan. Yes, a lot of money in the bank come in, get cashed in at this SummerSlam event. So that's kind of my category. And trailing in the last category to let people, it's personal bias, Ryan. There is going to be some. There are
Sure.
wrestlers. I tried to eliminate it, but there are wrestlers that I just do not enjoy seeing on the screen. I'll tell you this, I didn't mark them down for that, but I can't put you in my 5 favorite if I don't like you. I tried to take it out, but personal bias is going to show up.
Absolutely. And what you did, you numbered them like 1 to 10 and then
Yes,
those 5 things. So it's basically like a 50-point scale is what you
you
have, and
got it.
that's how
Out
you
of
okay.
out of 50, you got it. And then I tried to
Okay.
tally it up, and that could move, but I didn't. And I even cut the halfway point because I think there's like 34, 36 survivors, SummerSlams. If you were on the lower echelon, you could not move up into the top. If you, even with bias, if you were on the bottom, top echelon, you couldn't drop into the bottom even with bias.
All
So
right.
I kind of checked myself as much as I could.
So here's how we're going to do it. We're going to start with the worst and then we're going to go back and forth. So we'll do number 5 worst, number 5 best, number 4 worst, number 5 until we get to the top and bottom number ones. All right. So let's start right there, Nick. Number 5,
I think people are
worst WrestleMania. No, Summerfest main event of all
Sure, I
time.
don't even know about this shirt. But yeah, Ryan, I think I'm gonna catch some heat on this one, but taking my chart into consideration, Ryan, it's 2010. It's these dudes from out of nowhere that I'm supposed to care about called the Nexus. Again, taking nothing away from people's talent. I don't know who these dudes are against an all-star cast of WWE guys, and I'm supposed to believe these guys can just run in here. The Nexus versus Cena, Edge, Jericho, Truth, Morrison, Bret Hart, and Daniel Bryan. That gets my Ryan wrestling in that era, 2010. How hot's wrestling?
Not so hot, Bob.
I would say it's starting into the really bad years. I don't want to call it 96, but it's as close to that, 95. It's not that bad. If
Yeah.
there was another era in WWE, it's 10 to like 20.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
good.
so and Ryan, here's why I'm not going to go into the whole match. They never develop these guys. They show up on Raw. They murder everybody. I still don't know who you are. We're
Right.
watching the pay-per-view, and it's an elimination match. And they do it like an old Survivor Series. Guys are just getting fired out. As soon as a guy gets eliminated, 2, 3 more guys get kicked out of the match. There's no highlight for the Nexus team. Bryan actually does get highlighted. Cena gets an obvious major push, ends up winning the whole thing single-handedly at the end versus 2 Nexus members. But other than that, what was his name? Skip something, Ryan?
Skip Sheffield.
Skip Sheffield, Ryback. He got a couple hot spots in there for a minute, but
What a name. Skip Sheffield.
and Ryan, I don't think this match ages well over time because me and you have even talked about this. Outside of Daniel Bryan, who we know has went on to have a phenomenal career, main evented WrestleMania, is overdoing his thing in AEW. What about the rest of the guys, Ryan?
I think one of them pumped my gas a couple weeks ago. One of them is the main guy is now
one of them's a fill-in
color
for me if I'm
commentator.
sick on the show. It's like that's where we're at with these guys,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. And Nick, they never had a chance, and a lot of people hate this match, so they're not going to be mad that it's this low because they lose their first match right out of the gate. So then it kind of kills them. But I'll go even further than that. I think the opening night, as cool as it was completely unbelievable because they went Wyatt family and murdered the entire company in one night. Okay, now what? You just did everything humanly possible and things we've never even seen before. Now where do you go?
This felt like this. And Ryan, I can't criticize AEW and not criticize the WWE when you bring in people I don't know and expect me to care.
Yep.
I did not know a soul on this Nexus team, and they're beating up legends. John Cena, Chris Jericho, who's probably doing something like he's still in the doing better than he is now. He's
so
looking good. Edge, yeah. How you doing? Better than you. Edge is doing great. R-Truth, Morrison, not top names, but still guys. A washed up Bret Hart.
Yeah.
I don't want to see
guy
that
could
either.
barely move. But
I'm sorry. I love Bret Hart. He sits on my personal Mount Rushmore. I don't want to watch him wrestle in 2010, man.
No, not after a stroke and a motorcycle accident and whatever.
Again, it's not believable. He gets in there and deals on one of these Nexus guys.
Right.
Like literally takes him to the woodshed. And I'm like, wait, so these guys broke and destroyed everything. And Bret Hart, 2010, kicks your butt? Like,
well, and dude, the other thing of it's like you say, when they come in, you're supposed to just expect, they're on their level. No, that's like a AAA baseball team coming in and beating the 27 Yankees, right. Oh, Gehrig and Ruth and whoever, and the Toledo Mudhens come in here and knock them off in the series. I mean, it just wasn't believable at all. It was stupid. Let's move on to the best, Nick. We will start, same deal. We will start at number 5, the 5th best main event of all time.
I think it's one of the more recent ones, Ryan. And I say this because the match is great. Wrestling is revitalized. And we're going to see something we never freaking saw before, right? I'm going to say Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, 2022. I think last man standing. And I say this because, again, where's wrestling at? It's doing the best it's been in over a decade. Well over a decade, Ryan.
Football stadium.
How big are the participants in this match, Ryan? In the
2 biggest guys they got.
And in the scale of the 100 of all time, I think they're both in the top 20 for sure. And Roman's climbing still.
I would say 15 personally.
Me too. How good was the story? Well, this is Brock and Roman. Was it? Yeah. Was it a little bit? Come on, wrap it up, guys. But yeah, if you look through the history, SummerSlam is a conclusion pay-per-view a lot of the time. A lot of the time, it wraps up the feuds and jumpstarts the rest of the year. Guys reemerge at SummerSlam for that last shot at whatever they were trying or something. It's a really good match. The finish is a little rough because the Usos interfere for the millionth time, but I can get over that because it did keep Lesnar strong, and he destroys the ring like we've never seen before, man.
Yeah, and when's the last time a Tonka truck came in the ring and, never.
And Ryan, on this pay-per-view, and God rest his soul, Mr. Perfect gets topped.
How so?
Brock Lesnar enters on top of a tractor and cuts a promo with a microphone in his hand.
Yeah.
He throws it at Roman without moving. You could go watch this. He literally just sticks out his hand as Heenan-esque to catch the towel from, Mr. Perfect and catches it. Boom, smack, right in his hand.
Yeah.
As if it was planned. You couldn't do it again in a million tries.
Like it was nothing.
It was, but the match did deliver. These two guys, it wasn't Brock had been dominating dudes in SummerSlam matches. I mean, just destroying them. Orton, Cena. Triple H. Just murdering them. He murdered Orton too, if you remember. I mean, just caught him open. This match went back and forth. Roman proved in this match too, not only to close the feud out. You may beat me up, but I beat you up too. I am just as bad of a dude as you are, Brock Lesnar. And he closes the feud out, and I think it's a cool ending with the truck. Roman falls out of the ring.
I wanted nothing to do with that match at all because it was like their 8th pay-per-view match or something, maybe even more than that. We'd seen it at Mania, and Mania wasn't very good. And it was just like, really? Like, again, my gosh, there's got to be. And not only did they did something shocking. Like, when I came out of there, we're like, I don't know what I just watched, but it was pretty cool, and
you were part of something.
Yeah. And like, they did exactly what they needed to do in that match. I have that actually up at number 3. Best main event. Because again, it was just so shocking. And is it ridiculous? Yeah, they brought a friggin' dump truck or whatever out to back, whatever that thing is called, front hauler. Cool, yeah. And but this match needed that, and it worked somehow. It worked. I don't know how, but it did. I thought it was awesome.
And Ryan, I'm not going to say, I don't want to hear anybody point out what's ridiculous in today's wrestling, because there's some stuff that's going to happen this Monday on Raw in a 6-man tag that I still don't understand. So we'll wait and see how it goes down.
Yeah. Right. All of a sudden we care about rules and recounts. All right. Speaking of bad, let's go back to our worst list.
These were easier to pick.
At number 4, your 4th worst main event of all time.
And we can blame a little bit of COVID, Ryan, but I'm going to go back to 2020. There's no fans in the audience. It's the Fiend versus Braun Strowman. They're coming hot off maybe one of the worst matches of all time inside the swamp.
Yep.
Sorry, I'm getting photobombed. But again, on my scale, Ryan, I'll ask you, you know, I made the scale. Where do these guys rate in the top 100, Ryan, of all time wrestlers?
Yeah, if you're talking about stars, I mean, obviously the Fiend has its fans, and then he has people like us that just thought it was ridiculous. And Braun Strowman, he's nowhere near the top 100.
No, I don't. I think the Killer Bees are bigger names than that. Well, I mean, they are. I mean, I try. I know people are going to get mad, but people know and remember the Killer Bees, man. Like, I mean, I don't know that do people outside of wrestling know who Braun Strowman is?
No idea.
Like, I mean, could you
couldn't pick him out of a lineup?
There's no way. I just, again, I'm not, it just happens to be his character. I'm sorry. Maybe there's something in the tank, but story is terrible. They try to relate it to, you know, it's still on the whole, we were in the Wyatt family thing.
Yep.
The match is awful. Nothing. It's like a no rules match with this psychotic Fiend in this monster. And it's just, it's nothing major happens. There's no, you know, like, and they fight through the arena. Then they get back to the end for the finish. Strowman takes 2 to 3 minutes to cut the ring open. It keeps flopping back, closed on him. He can't get the dang thing open. And finally, when he does, he stands up. The Fiend's just sitting there waiting for him, hits his sister Abigail, and that's it. Match has one saving grace, Ryan.
The exact opposite of what you mentioned you didn't like at the end of matches, but this one was good.
What is SummerSlam known for? 2 things: special guest referees and special returns. Roman Reigns returns. That is in the fact that I can't give it a ton of points because it had nothing to do with the match. This was all about Roman. Match was over. Fiend has retaken the championship. Right. They just brought Roman back to wreck everyone and leave. And he did, and that is awesome. I was so happy to see him back. But again, we didn't know the bloodline. He wasn't aligned with Paul Heyman yet. So it was still up in the air. Are we going to see Baron Corbin feed him more dog food? Or are we going for, you know, come on. I love Roman too, but that was bad. You know, it was, so we were still up in the air, but
you never see it coming is what they said about that. And we didn't think Roman was coming back till
right, COVID was done. COVID, and he's dealing with his cancer issues, man. And I was so excited to see him back, but that was the only saving grace. I could not wait to turn this match off. The Fiend versus Braun Strowman, 4th worst match in SummerSlam main event history, in my opinion.
I got nothing to add to that. That it could maybe even be higher. Yeah, it's
if Roman doesn't come back, it is.
Yeah. Oh yeah, probably, no doubt. Back to the best. We are at number 4. And what do you have for the 4th best main event in WrestleMania or SummerSlam? I keep saying WrestleMania.
And Summerfest, whatever that is.
This one gets my bias because I moved it up a few points after notching it down because the WWE is struggling a little bit still in 1997, Ryan. But you have one of my best ever, Bret Hart, doing his best work ever in the WWE, in my opinion. And that was the Hart Foundation. That was the if I have to give the United States an enema, it would start right here in Pittsburgh. It was so great, man. I love Bret as the heel. He's up against the dead man in 97, but there's a catch. Shawn Michaels, who we all know about the fight backstage and everything with these guys. He's the special guest referee, so we've got a little reality playing over into this in this match. The match is really good. It is the Undertaker, in my opinion, the best match I ever saw him wrestle to that point in the WWE. Bret Hart performs awesome. Shawn is a phenomenal referee in that match. He's vocal. He does a great job of getting in the match, but not overshadowing the match. Yep. And the finish is awesome. Shawn, I think we may see shades of it this weekend with Seth in the Punk McIntyre match.
Might be doing a remix.
Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels gets so frustrated with Bret, goes to smash him with the chair, but he misses and hits the Undertaker. And Bret, the way he goes down, the way he looks at Shawn, make the count, buddy.
Yep. Doesn't hit a finish, doesn't put him in the sharpshooter, just goes over and covers him.
It's so awesome.
Regrettably,
and you can see, and I love that when Shawn shakes his head when he's mad and walks. Like, it's just a great moment. You got it. I think this match is awesome. I think it is like I said, it might be the Undertaker's best match of the 90s. In my opinion, I love this match.
I'd have to think real quick, but
I do too.
It probably is.
I mean, I'll rewatch the Snake match, but at WrestleMania, or the Snuka, but no, I mean, it's a good match, man. It's a good story. It's a good finish. It's three massive names in wrestling history. The markdown came a little bit. 97 isn't a real strong year overall.
Summer was good though. It was because of Bret and because of going back and forth in Canada and all that.
I think it was better too, though, for wrestling fans than it was outside of wrestling. The casual fan, if you will, was watching the other station, right?
Yep. As were we. Yeah, I agree with you on this 1,000%. Everything you said was dead on. This also sparked a couple of great matches between Shawn and the Taker, including the first ever Hell in a Cell. Which, I got this at number 2. I got it.
Do you really? Wow.
Yeah, I really like that a lot.
It's a great match.
And Bret wins the belt for the 5th time.
And he was gonna never wrestle again in the United States if he lost the match. It was cool. A lot in this match. A lot going on.
From the best to the worst. Number 3 on your list.
Not far from home, right? Just down the road.
I was going to say a little familiar.
The third worst match in SummerSlam history, Lex Luger versus Yokozuna 1993. Ryan, it just wasn't happening, man. I was even a little bit invested in this match, which made it even freaking worse for me. I know a lot of people jumped off the Luger bandwagon. I know you're not a Luger guy. No. I am a Luger guy. Okay, the Intrepid thing was cool to me. You set me up. He ain't Hogan. It's okay. I can deal with it. Let's see. And then you do a very, for these two, a kind of elongated match with punches and kicks and not a lot going on, only to finish it with a count-out victory for Lex Luger. And you celebrate it like it's Hogan slamming Andre and pinning him at 3. Yeah. It's so bad. The finish is bad. The match is bad. The build, I even gave it slack there and gave it like a 5. I said, okay, it's not that, because they did the Intrepid. It was cool. People were talking. This is just a terrible finish and a terrible match. And Ryan, I don't think Yokozuna... I don't hate the guy, but he's not he's not a top-rated WWE champion, right? I don't think he rates up there with the, Hogan's and Warriors and Cena's and Rocks and Romans.
Because of the era, he was the champion in the worst era. But it's funny, like I think he gets looked at better now than he did back then. Because like no one,
bloodline.
He killed everybody.
He did.
He won, but I don't think none of my friends at least, took him that seriously.
No.
Like he was boring. He didn't talk. And you just didn't really care about him for whatever reason that was. And then Luger, the turn just came out of nowhere. I went on vacation. I didn't know till like 3 weeks later when I saw him on Regis. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And they show that he's like a good guy now. And I'm like, last I knew, he was the narcissist. What in the world is going on?
I think he's a bad guy at King of the Ring. King of the Ring.
Out of nowhere.
First Tatanka.
And he's not a good talker. He's not a good worker. And something was just missing there. Yeah. Something was just missing. And then obviously the finish of that match, he acts like he won, 8 gold medals over here. Balloons are coming down. They lift him up like he did something. Like, bro, you counted him out.
He survived. He is one of the guys that worked a lot better in WCW, NWA than WWE, man. I don't know if him combined with the more cartoonish, because he is cartoonish, if that makes sense. He's just all meat, muscle. His talking is not over the top great, as you mentioned earlier.
I'm one of the biggest legends and stars ever in this. God! And your t-shirts are too tight too, Billy!
He had, I think, much better runs in WCW than
he
did in
late 80s. And
his feud with Flair
in the 90s.
But yeah, this match, Ryan, what a letdown. What a letdown for these people.
All that hype. All that, the whole tour and everything. They got the whole Palace of Auburn Hills decked in red, white, and blue. And then
you celebrate like you win.
Yeah. They're like, does he not know the rules? For life. Let's move back to the best. Okay. Number 3, third best of all time.
Third best of all time. Let me see. I'm sorry. This is a big one, man. I think this match is awesome. The Rock versus the Brock, if you will. 2002, Ryan. The Rock is still, again, a massive competitor. Brock Lesnar is newer. What has he been, 6 months or so?
Not even. The night after Mania.
He is a phenom, though. He looks the part. He's got Paul Heyman with him. People are starting to turn a little bit on The Rock, and Lesnar is kind of seeming cool, even though he was the heel. The Rock definitely was the face going into this. I even wrote on here, one of the best worked SummerSlam main events to this point. We've got a couple that are really good. I meant even just the previous one we did with Bret and Taker. This match is awesome. Rock and Brock, and they do it in this era because it's still before the match without just kicking out of people's finishes. The Rock counters the F5s. He doesn't get hit with 6 of them and get pinned by the
kick
7th.
Out at 2, yeah.
Yeah, it's a great match, and he loses clean. They really put Brock over in this match, and it's not your normal Brock match where he just suplexed the Rock for 35 minutes or whatever you want to do. It's a good match. Brock wrestles in this match.
He was a good worker until he left and went to UFC. Then when they brought him back, because he's a UFC guy, they're like, well, he's going to have to start working like that. He could work back in the day.
He flipped. I've seen him. I mean, we've all seen him jump off the top turnbuckle.
Yeah.
I mean, almost killed himself, but
he could do it. Yeah. Just not that day.
Yeah. But yeah, he just not that day. But I thought it was a really good match. And that's, I think both guys are over. Wrestling's still hot in 02. The nWo, I think was that 02 they showed up.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah. It didn't go to plan, but it's still, the WCW guys are still guys trickling in, making it interesting. Wrestling kind of hasn't, I'm not going to say it's rising because it's certainly not, but it hasn't hit the massive decline that is coming.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think this is a great match. This could possibly be, I think it probably is the best SummerSlam of all time.
I think you're right.
And this match kind of solidifies it. It was strange. I wasn't a huge Brock fan because he had just gotten there, and it's like, they're going to put the belt on this guy already. But no, this match was great. Huge Rock fan. And then obviously he takes off here after this and then doesn't come back until like February, and he fights Hogan again, and he's Hollywood Rock then at that point. So they went with it because, he got booed against Hogan at Mania. He gets booed here, and they're like, let's lean into it. And they did. But no, man, this was huge, putting Brock over. And it worked, though, because he looked like $1 million in this match. So it made it look like, hey, we're doing the right thing by going with this guy.
They beat him clean in a good match, in just a great match.
All right, Nick, back to the worst. And then there were two. The bottom two here. Worst of all time. What do you have at number 2?
I don't think I'm going to catch any slack over this either, Ryan. 1995 Diesel versus King Mabel, accompanied to the ring by Squire Mo.
If there's anything worse than King Mabel, Squire Mo.
And they literally, like, a couple months earlier, they're like, hip hop hooray. Now he's in
there. It is. It said it on his drive-in movie theater screen backside. It said, whoop, there it is.
Now he's an evil king.
Squire Mo.
Squire Mo. They pushed Mabel to the moon, Ryan, but I mean, what can you do with this guy? People give Diesel he's the one who takes all the crap for this. Kevin Nash,
the worst drawing champion of all time.
Who's he supposed to fight, right?
Yeah, I wonder why. Look who he's fighting.
I mean, God, he won the title from Bob frickin' Back. Man, like, again, I'm not he's part of this match being bad, but he's not the problem. Diesel is actually Kevin Nash. I would say he is a top 50 wrestler, right, of all time. Yeah. King Mabel, probably not. Is Viscera bigger than him, right? Is that
Viscera's definitely bigger, I would say.
King Mabel, so I mean, more people know Big Daddy V.
Big Daddy V. Yeah, so, I mean, Viscera, is terrible as that was. At least it's like in the Attitude Era,
Like someone was watching, even if it was terrible.
Right. Yeah.
This was just terrible, and no one was watching, man. I mean, he runs through the King of the Ring, beats the Undertaker. They tried to get Diesel someone to fight, but Ryan, I mean, they needed to give him a monster. But this guy's so big. Kevin Nash, although big, Ryan, he's not like super muscular, strong, like can lift these. He can't do anything with this guy. The finish is a clothesline off the second turnbuckle or something, man.
There was no way he was hitting him with a jack.
Oh, God, especially, I mean, he almost killed the giant.
You can't even get your arms around him,
No, man, no. And he's still, the problem is, too, though, he's still in his stupid rap gear. Like, he becomes the king, and he's still wearing these pajamas with big pants and stuff, man. Like, it's so bad. It just doesn't work.
Yeah, it's so bad. We actually did an entire show on it. You can go back in the archives and check that out if you want to.
God.
Possibly the worst SummerSlam of all time, 1995. We ran the whole show.
Check it out.
I would say it's more entertaining than the actual SummerSlam is. So you might want to check that out one day. It's real bad, though. I mean,
it's awful.
Mabel was about to get fired afterward because Nash told him specifically, don't do a certain thing to me. And he sits on him and injures his back. Yeah. And then Vince was going to fire him. on the spot. And then Nash, I guess, allegedly, if you believe that story, said, no, don't.
No, I
do
need
that.
someone to fight. You have no other heels. It's 95.
Yeah. Well, and do you think that's part of the thing too? Like, this push also came out of nowhere, just completely out of nowhere. All of a sudden, this dude is a dude. Do you think it was like the Hulk Hogan treatment with, he just fought monsters all the time. That was his thing.
Yeah.
They would just bring in a monster after monster after monster. And Hogan's a big guy. And mostly, you know, it's hard to get sympathy on a babyface that's 6'8", 300 pounds. You know,
he
maybe
can never
the same
be the
thing
underdog.
with Diesel, who's even bigger. So it's hard to get sympathy on a babyface who's that big. Or like, I'll know it. Well, we'll get Mabel in there. You know, so I don't know if that was the thinking
I would
there.
bet you're on the right train of thought, Ryan, to be honest with you. I mean, did anybody see Mabel as a threat to that title?
When it was kind of talked about that he may win King of the Ring, and everybody was just like, there's no way. There's no way. And then he does. I mean,
well, and especially, it's actually a fairly decent, as far as like guys for 95, Luger is in that King of the Ring. Tatanka is in that King of the Ring. The Undertaker is in that King of the Ring. There's some dudes on there. So you're like, Mabel? What? No,
right.
Like, no way.
Yeah, and it did make for a great match. And again, it's not like Nash is the greatest worker of all time either, but when you put those two together, oof, that's rough. Yeah, number 2, I would tend to agree with that as well. I think there's 2 of them, at least in my all-time thinking, that are like, you maybe could go one way or the other. That's one of them. So I agree with you there. Let's go to the best, man. The top 2 main events of SummerSlam of all time. What do you got as the runner-up?
Ryan, the runner-up. I gotta do a quick plug because it'll lead me in. Check out our top 5 best SummerSlam biggest SummerSlam performers of all time. People may watch that, right, and be like, well, wait a minute. Your number 1 isn't the guy who's wrestled on SummerSlam the most amount of times. Your number 1 isn't the guy who's been in the most SummerSlam main events. How is he your number 1? And I would say right back to you, how's Shawn Michaels Mr. WrestleMania? He has not wrestled in the most WrestleManias. He has not main evented the most WrestleManias. However, he puts on the best show and or has the best angle at WrestleMania when he's involved, Ryan. And that's where number 2 hits. If you're wondering who our number 1 on the list was, it is none other Mr. SummerSlam.
The SummerSlam.
Bret the Hitman Hart. And he is in a match in 1992 at Wembley Stadium versus the British Bulldog for the Intercontinental title. And it's the next match. If there is a step from Steamboat Savage, this is the next one, Ryan. The one that if you're a wrestling fan, you have to see this match. It is one of, if not the greatest worked match in wrestling history. Apparently, according to Bret, it was on the fly.
Yeah.
They couldn't get a hold of the British Bulldog, some ailment. He was
nose allergy.
Yeah, it was snowing where he was at, and couldn't get the flight there. He arrived, they went through the match. Bret, they got through it, Ryan, and it worked. It was action from bell to bell. It was just one of the greatest matches, if not the greatest match you'll ever see in your life, especially to that point in time. I think this sets the bar a lot of the way through the 90s and the new generation coming in, that if you want, this is the match that this generation's looking for, I think, in the 90s, man. And they got it with the Bulldog and Bret Hart in 1992. Phenomenal finish. Story is a little weak, but it's not their fault because this whole thing was thrown together at a whim. This was supposed to be where, Ryan?
It was Washington, D.C., the Cap Center.
There you go. And they move it to Wembley and wipe the card. Everybody who...
Bret was feuding with Shawn all summer.
Correct. According to him, he did not want to drop the belt to Shawn at Wembley, not anything personal. He just thought it would hurt Shawn, and he might be right. They might have crapped all over that if Bret dropped to Shawn, because I think Bret is far more of an international star than Shawn Michaels
Right.
is.
Yeah.
But it worked though, right? Ryan, not only did it work, they saved this pay-per-view. This
Yeah.
pay-per-view is terrible.
It's not good. I don't know how people think it's good.
It's not good. The other main event match, if you will, ends in a freaking count out or DQ or something like that. It's not good. But this match, it's for the ages, Ryan. And both stars, the Bret, although not, it gets a little ding on this, although not main event level, he's the highest mid-card guy you got. He's going to take the step toward the next level soon.
And this did it.
Soon.
And it's the first time the IC title had ever closed a pay-per-view. The world title didn't, or anything like that.
Right.
And Bret proved that he could close a show right here. And it didn't hurt that there was an Englishman in there with him, but
right. But
he proved that he could carry the show. And I think this is the first match ever
In the SummerSlam
that reminded me of Steamboat Savage. You know, there was no other matches like that.
No.
Now, I wasn't watching in 89, so I didn't WCW. So I didn't see live the trilogy between Steamboat and Flair that everybody raves over. So I didn't see those matches, but this was really the first one since, and it is my favorite match of all time, any show on anything. And so this is my number one. But everything you said was dead on. There were moves. They didn't have to fly around and things like that. They weren't, getting shot out of a rocket and doing Simone Biles flips and all this kind of stuff. But they did things that we hadn't seen before, like the finish. I had never seen that finish before, where the guy just rolls down and folds his legs over, things like that. The crowd was amazing because, it's in front of 80,000 people in a different country. We'd never seen that before.
And for a thrown together storyline, it worked because of the relation, because of his sister, Davey's wife, at the time. It did work. It wasn't a cringeworthy story or something like that. It wasn't, the giant is Hogan's dad, or Andre's son.
Is Andre really your dad?
I gotta know something, man. Hey, is Andre really your dad, man?
It came out of nowhere. Like, you figured they had all these matches that you just figured, okay, they're going to fight at SummerSlam. And then Mean Gene comes on with the SummerSlam report one day and literally just goes, hey, we're going to England, and it's going to be the British Bulldog against Bret Hart. What?
Kamala's now fighting the Undertaker.
Yeah,
Michaels
he was fighting.
Is now
the
fighting.
Berserker literally just tried to stab him with a sword a week before. Yeah. And now he's fighting Kamala for life. All right. Number one, the worst main event in Summerfest history. What do you got?
Well, Ryan, a couple of these I'm going to eliminate so people can know they're not on here.
A couple runners up or honorable
91, Ryan. It was bad, right? Lopsided.
Match made in hell, you're talking.
Yes, it was just too much power on one side of the ring. You got a guy, Slaughter, who I didn't even didn't seem like a champion to me. I'm like, this guy's the champion? Like, are you kidding me? Now you've teamed the Warrior and Hogan against him and his two managers.
Yeah. Iron Sheik's like 60 at that point.
Yeah, that didn't work for me, brother.
In that feud, it was like it barely even made it to WrestleMania 7, let alone another 4 months later. Oof.
Yeah, that was rough. 96, Michaels Vader came close to making the list. At least it had a finish. It had like 4 finishes, if I don't recall. I mean, they kept restarting that match, which I thought made it terrible.
Yes.
Michaels gets counted out. Michaels gets DQ'd. Then Michaels wins. It's just And everybody knows, I shouldn't say everybody, if you don't, there was some issues with Vader and Michaels as
That was the
well.
end of Vader.
Yeah, that was yeah. Rumor is, I heard from someone he was supposed to eventually win gold.
He was going to get the Sid push, and Michaels wouldn't work with him. So then they gave that push to Sid.
Well, Sid's better than Vader. Anyway. Well, yes. But
Who's the man?
But yeah, it's those matches. I think. I also wasn't a big fan of. I think it's 9 or 8. Punk, Jeff Hardy. Sorry, everybody's gonna throw stuff.
Yeah, that one might tick some people off because I've seen that on a lot of like top 10 lists.
Where does Jeff Hardy rank in all-time singles competitors?
I agree. I'm
sorry. Tag teams, me and you, Ryan, we got them in the top 10. We did our video. Check that one out. Hardys are awesome tag team. Ryan, they're just neither one of them are singles competitors to me. It doesn't work for me. But if I had to nail it down, Ryan, the worst SummerSlam match of all time would be if you had to fight yourself. The Undertaker versus The Undertaker.
What's worse than one Undertaker?
Oh,
two Undertakers.
If we could only get fake Deezer and fake Ramon in this match, it would be like it was Ryan. Not only I talked earlier, like a story makes. How bad is this? The guy died, Ryan. He died. They put him in a casket, and after he died on television, he went full Jesus, man, and he resurrects through the Titantron. I think he stops on top of it, right? He doesn't go all the way to heaven.
I can't remember.
Okay, but he makes it out. I obviously, as we know, hell is beneath the ring.
Yes, so under the ring.
Heaven is through the Titantron. It's like, how bad is that? He got killed. They went off, found another Ted DiBiase. There's apparently just like a farm of Undertakers. You just go get one. And he found this other evil Undertaker. Ryan, the feud is bad. Wrestling is bad at this time.
There is no feud. Like, what's a feud? The other guy's not there.
It's like the perfect storm. They go on after the best blue cage match, probably in the history of the blue cage, after Hart versus Hart. The finish is just Undertaker wins with, I think, a handful of tombstones. It's so bad. And then I know from talking to you, you have a part on this that you really hate. Dealing, and I'll let you hit on that.
The whole feud of the whole thing really is Leslie Nielsen is the like celebrity at SummerSlam 94.
We have no problem.
If you don't know who Leslie Nielsen is, he was in all these slapstick comedy movies, including The Naked Gun, which I believe that summer or shortly around there, Naked Gun, like 33 1/3 came out.
2.5 or something.
2.5, yeah. 4 1/4. So they like he is like going around trying to investigate because he was like a detective or something in those, right? And so he's trying to figure out, where's the Undertaker at? I'm gonna find him. And it's all this like idiot comedy stuff, which doesn't fit the Undertaker whatsoever. Nothing at all about the Undertaker says slapstick comedy.
All elite Scooby-Doo.
So it was just stupid to begin with. And, then he comes out all of a sudden. I guess he's just here. And he beats up the fake Undertaker, who is never to be seen again until he was like Chains or 8-Ball in what was their name?
Disciples of Apocalypse.
Yeah, DOA. Yeah.
DOA. Yeah, and we were supposed to know the good Undertaker by like the trim on his hat. It was like blue or something. And like his gloves were blue. Like that's the good Taker. And they got it. And they chose a dude, but they were like, it's hard to tell which one is. I'm like, no, it's freaking it's two separate people. Like it's Who thought this was a good idea?
I-
Who didn't get fired at that meeting? Dude, you know what we should do? We should have the Undertaker fight the Undertaker. Like, how did that guy make it out of that meeting? How did he not get
Yeah,
fired?
but
Unless
he's
it was
another
Vince.
genius. He's another
Yeah.
genius, that
Jesus
Undertaker.
God. Ryan, we've said it before. This stuff is it doesn't work.
This was bad. It's a bad idea. They should have never. It is second. It even got suggested. Somebody should have went. No, moving on. You're like they should, and that should have been the end of it.
He's fighting himself. It's so
Not
dumb.
good. And you said it. It's too bad because it came right after one of the greatest cage matches in the history of wrestling, period.
The finish
And
is
at that
freaking
point,
awesome.
a lot of people were saying it was the best cage match.
It's the best blue cage match, I think, to that point, at least. If you're going to argue you like some of the steel or the fence cage stuff.
Right.
I don't know, but haven't seen them all. But as the blue cage matches, man, the ending's awesome. Owen Hart getting tripped up and caught, his leg gets hooked in the cage.
Yeah,
and
upside down.
Friggin'
Yeah.
awesome.
Okay, so we have reached the moment of glory here. We are down to number one, but do you have a couple, Nick, honorable mentions before that just missed the top five?
That just missed the top five. John Cena, Roman Reigns. What year was that? 21, I think it was. Yeah,
Yep.
I put that on there. Big match, man. I know people can say what they want. John Cena rates where top 15, got to be right. Roman Reigns, I think we need to start talking seriously about where he does rate, because it's a conversation that needs to be had, because it sure as hell ain't outside the top 20. And the feud was kind of a little underwhelming, but they did cut some good promos on each other. The finish, a little underwhelming. It was clean, but so I liked it. Match was good. We got to see Roman and John Cena, two of the icons, collide. I liked that match. I also liked 99, the triple threat. Triple H, Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Mankind. Special guest referee Jesse the Body. Match is awesome. Go back and watch it until the thing that me and you hate happens. A freaking McMahon comes out every time. Like they can't do a main event match from the start of 98 till 2000, God knows what, without a McMahon coming out. And Jesse gets a little weird where he won't let Triple H use a chair in a no DQ triple threat match. It's just it had a little bit of that bumped it out of there, but it is a phenomenal match, man. It really is. And if I had to pick one more, Cena Punk. That year that Punk was hot, that was a good match too. What bumped that off there, Ryan? The Cena Punk match got high ratings for me. Story probably was rushed, me and you agree, but there was still something there. Wrestling was getting a spark. What kills this, Ryan, is the end.
Yeah, what happens at the end? Our favorite gimmick.
Money in the Bank cash in by Alberto Del Rio after Kevin Nash shows up to hit CM Punk. You're sitting there going, what in the God's green earth is going on here? It just was a terrible finish, and that kind of bumped that off my list.
Yeah, I didn't like the fact that they brought Punk back 2 weeks after he left, too.
That rushed the feud.
Yeah, that wasn't good.
So it comes down
before we get to your number one, the only one still on my list that we didn't mention, Cena and Daniel Bryan in 13. That also could be one of the greatest SummerSlams of all time.
Again, no, they ruined it at the end, right?
But same exact thing. Here comes Money in the Bank at the end after Bryan beats Cena. Randy Orton comes down. So,
right.
Okay, Nick, the number one of all time.
And people are going to think I'm so biased, but Ryan, my chart's up. If you have to have this ranking system, I have to have a 10. I have to have a 1. My 1 year, like rated number 1 would be something like 1996, 2019. To me, these are really bad years in wrestling. My number 1 year would be something like 1999, 1998. WWE is hot, right? Or the golden era, 1988. This pay-per-view was created for a match. My number one is the original main event, the Mega Powers versus the Mega Bucks, Ryan. And I know, what do you mean, Ryan? On a scale of 1 to 10, wrestling in 1988, if it ain't a 10, it's a 9. It's huge.
Yeah, it's still hot.
It's over. It's big. If I asked you, Ryan, to name the biggest 6 men in the wrestling industry, how many of them are in this match?
3 of them. Half of the top 6 ever are like biggest. And you're talking like star power.
Star
like
power.
People that your mom
Butts
are going to know.
in seats. Yes.
If you walk up to somebody on the street and say, name me 5 wrestlers, they're probably going to name Hulk Hogan, Macho Man, or Andre the Giant, right?
Yes, they are. Ryan, who's the greatest gimmick the WWE has ever created?
Personally, not the Undertaker.
Congratulations.
I agree. It's not.
The $1 Million Man to me is the greatest gimmick of all time.
It's a 2-pronged story. People often forget too. The $1 Million Man going after the belt was a phenomenal story, right? He tried to pay for the belt.
I'm gonna buy it.
It was odd. What do you mean? Dad, can he do that? He can't. Like, we have never seen this. It's not written down, I guess. But the Mega Powers and this match not only closes the door on the Mega Powers kind of versus the Mega Bucks. I think Savage may fight Andre to Saturday Night's Main Event, but I don't think it was a Mega Power Buck thing. It opens the door for the Mega Powers exploding. It is the look, Ryan. It's
grabbing
short.
the butt.
It's don't grab your best friend's girl's butt. That is the moral story.
I'll write that down.
The work rate is the lowest part. It gets dinged on, but Savage and DiBiase work most of the match. You're not going to get me to say those guys are awful. It's 1988 too. They work a fine match. It does get cheesy with the handshake, but it's 1988 too, man. The ending, Elizabeth tearing it off. They're standing there. The right team wins. Jesse is saved because he doesn't make the 3 count.
Yeah.
Savage
you didn't mention Jesse Ventura is the referee.
Special guest referee, greatest color commentator in the world. And I will say, even on my block in school, there were kids, Mega Powers versus Mega Bucks. Oh, Mega Powers are going to win. Not if the Bucks control the referee. And they paid him off. And there were people that,
Jesse.
Will Jesse call this down the line? You know, the match, again, is it the greatest work? No, it's not Brian Cena. No, it's not Undertaker, Bret Hart, or Bulldog, Bret Hart. But it is huge. The participants are huge. The industry's huge. The story is the greatest story ever told. It's the Mega Powers, man. The finish works for me, brother. It was awesome. Savage slams the hand down. Plus the look that starts it. Ryan, my number one match, 1988, Mega Powers, Mega Bucks.
So I don't have that on here, but I don't know that I have thought about what you said. And we are all about, we would rather see stars wrestle than like little guys flipping around. And these 3 dudes are, they are 3 of the biggest names of all time. And Ted DiBiase, who was a huge name. So I never really thought about it quite like that. Yeah, the star power there. The
managers are
incredible.
2 of the biggest. Elizabeth has got to be a top 10 manager of all time.
She might be the best woman ever still.
Right. I mean, in Virgil, again, I'm not saying he's a star. People know Ted DiBiase and Virgil. They knew who that guy was, man.
The one thing that gets for me here, and they made this pay-per-view for this match. This was kind of a one-match show. The Warrior wasn't a story. There was none of the real stories were on this pay-per-view. The one thing, though, is that Hogan-Andre feud had been going for a while at this point, and it was like, all right, time to wrap this sucker up. So that's the only thing maybe with me that, had it been like the summer before, that would have been incredible. But yeah, I mean, I can't argue at all with that. So you've got the Mega Powers and the Mega Bucks, the original SummerSlam, the match that started the whole pay-per-view. And I've got Bret and Bulldog 92.
It's a phenomenal match, man.
Out of 50 points, you haven't said going on. How many points did the Mega Powers, Mega Bucks get?
43.
43, and I assume work rate to where it got hurt.
I dinged it at a 6. I gave it a 6 out of 10 because a 5 to me, a 5 is worth watching. Like, it's not bad. 4 is average, right? It's a C, right? It's not bad. If someone would have said 5 or 6, just, it's like an average. I'm not pushing it to the moon.
Right.
I have the finish at an 8. I didn't give the finish. I even gave the finish an 8, but I did give a 10 for the participants, a 10 for the era, and a 9 for the feud.
How many points did Undertaker against Undertaker get?
All right, I don't think we want. Now, remember, keeping in mind, fans, you cannot get a 0. So you automatically get 5 points.
That's what I asked you. I'm like, well, no zeros?
Undertaker got 8 points for
8.
I gave it a 2 for the participants because the fake Undertaker is so bad. And the Undertaker, again, 94, I know I'm dinging the actual, but he's not as big as he is 5 or 6, 7, 10 years later.
Right.
He is big, but his opponent is probably the worst opponent in SummerSlam history. Like, it's that bad. I gave the era is a 2.
Yeah.
I mean, 94. It's not the worst era, but it's pretty freaking bad.
It's right there.
The match I gave a 1. There's nothing in the match. They don't do anything. It's not like anybody can pull it off. The finish, the feud I gave a 1.
Yeah.
It's terrible. The finish I gave a 2 because the fans got to see the tombstone. I didn't give it a 1. I gave it a 2. But because the finish, who was sitting there going, man, this is a nail biter. That fake Undertaker could walk out of here.
He's going to do some damage. You don't even know who he is.
There's no one in the world of all matches that ever took place. The fake Undertaker was not going to beat the real Undertaker. Like, it just.
You never know, man.
Yeah.
Anything can happen in the World Wrestling Federation.
Jesus God.
Anything.
Just don't do fake
else,
things
Nick.
anymore. Fake Diesel, fake Razor. Just don't do fake things, man. Like,
let us know your top 5 and bottom 5 in the comments. Please do that. If you could share this, that'd be great. If you could please hit like and please hit subscribe, that would help as well. Helps more people see it and all that sort of thing. So, Nick, appreciate it, man.
Thank you for having me, Ryan. Thanks, everybody, for watching or listening. I appreciate it.
All right, job, guys. Out.
You smell something, it's us, because we're the stuff.